Hello guys, welcome back to Python Basics series. We are in part 5 of Python Basics and its functions. So this video are going to talk about the function arguments. And if you are new to the channel, welcome on board and please consider subscribing for more helpful and educating content. So this is your data science journey and this is how we are going to roll. So if you are not new to the channel and you have not yet subscribed, please consider subscribing. So in this video, we are going to talk about the function arguments, and function arguments are the inputs you pass to a function when you call it, or the value that you pass to a function when you're calling a function. So there's always the parameter. Parameters now are the variable names you pass into the function during its definition or whenever you are creating a function. Remember in the first video, I wrote something like this, parameters. So parameters, these are variable names. For example, in this hello function, we are going to pass in the name and age of the user so that we can greet the user and tell them their age. So these now, the name and the age here are the parameters. Now whenever you are going to pass the name and the age, when you are calling the function, those values will be referred to as the function arguments. So in this case, name and age, whenever you are defining a function, they are parameters. So there are always types of function argument. So we are going to go first into the first function argument in Python or in most of the programming languages. So the first one we are going to deal now with it is the positional argument. These arguments are matched up by their position in the function code. For example, here we are going to pass the name and age. So we are going to print. So in this function, we defined the function hello with the two parameters, name and age. So when we are going to print there, for example, if I pass Bill, hello Bill, you are 12 years old, so like that. So for now, the first argument or the first type of argument in Python functions is the positional. So this is how we do. For the positional means, whenever you are calling the function, you have to pass the argument values as per definition how they were defined. You have to follow that. So whenever you are writing this, name will be the first one and then age will follow, but not age appearing on name then name appearing on age. No, for positional you have to ensure that they follow the order in which they were defined during the function definition. So for this we are going to do this way. So when you're calling the function, you're going to call the hello, then you're going to pass the value. For example, the name you can pass it as Bill, then the age is 25, like that. Because okay, whenever for now, like we are printing here, this value might not, these two might not differ from our printing, but you might use them. For example, when someone is passing the age, you might check the age to determine if person is the user is eligible for passport or not eligible. So but here we are just printing the values, but in maybe in your project you might find you are using the values in a different way, because this will be a string and this will be an integer, so you might use them differently. So for positional, you have to follow the order that you defined the parameters in the function definition, and that's how you do it. So now you can run the program and test. Hello Bill, you are 25 years old, like that. So the other type of Python function argument is the keyword argument. So for keyword arguments, So for keyword arguments, these arguments they precede by a keyword when you are calling a function. What I mean by they are preceded by a keyword is that they allow you to specify arguments out of order. Here, for example, now still on that function, you don't have to follow the order name and age, but you have to use the keyword. If you're not following the order, you can start with age, but you can start with age, but you have to use the keyword age. That means the parameter name that was used when you are defining the function. So you have to use that variable. So you can define age is 28. Then we can go to name. Name equals gets. And in Python, for the parameters, you can define any number of parameters as you want whenever you are defining a function. And for that case, whenever you are defining a function, you can use any number of parameters. At the same case, when you are calling the function, you have to ensure the numbers of functions that were defined. You have to ensure the number of parameters that were passed in the function are still the same number of arguments that are passed during the function call. So before I move on to keyword, let's see this. For example, you called hello. You defined two arguments, name and age. Then during the function call, you omit age. So we are going to get an error for that case. Missing one required positional argument. The number of functions you define, as long as the function, the two parameters you defined on the function, if one of them is not a default argument, you have to define both of the arguments during the function call. Otherwise, you will get an error. So we move on to now the keyword. The keyword I said that is the same as positional, but it doesn't have to follow the order of name and age. But if you're not to follow the order, you have to use the keyword or the parameter that was used during the function definition. So, and that's how you can do it. So let's test this. The keyword argument. Yeah, you can see hello gets you at 28 years old. And it's the same case. For example, we omit this one here. And you are going to run it like that. You're going to be told that error missing one required position argument name. So that will be a problem. So you have to ensure you have to ensure that the parameters that were used during the function definition matches with the function arguments during the function call. Unless during the function definition the parameters one of the parameters was a default argument or a default parameter. So that's the case. Maybe you don't understand what I mean by default. Let's move to the third function argument type. That would be default argument. So, and for default argument, it means that this argument with default values specified in the function definition. So, if the argument is not provided in the function call, the default value is used. For example, here we can use the definition. You can use this one here, and we are going to use the age as a default one. Like we're going to pass 35 like that. So when you are going to call the function header, you can just pass the name. For example, we can call this Charles. That. So now here you are allowed to miss the second argument because the second argument on the function definition already had the default value. So if you don't pass the value for the second argument, the default one will be used when the function is called. You can see hello Charles, you are 35 years old. So that's how it goes. So if you use the age, you pass the age as 45, so it's going to replace the default one. You can see hello Charles, you are 45 years old. So that's how you can do the arguments. So we have the last two that depend on the variable length arguments. That means maybe you don't know the number of arguments that will be passed to a function. You'll find those cases. So that makes us to go to the fourth one. That's the variable length arguments. And for this, you use this is the so the variable, then the arguments are represented using the asterisks, then the any value, any name you can just the args means the argument. You can still use any other name. It doesn't mean you have to use the asterisks and args. So now we are going to do. So for this allow you to pass a variable number of arguments to a function. Like you can pass in a list, you can pass any number of arguments you want to a function, and for those values they will be treated as a tuple. For variable length arguments, here the asterisk and args means the arbitrary arguments. Arbitrary arguments. So that's the type of the arguments now we are going to discuss. And for this, they allow you to pass a variable number of arguments to a function. And they are always treated like a tuple. In this way, for example, for this function, let's define another function. We are going to call that function numbers. So then you are going to pass in the arbitrary arguments like that. Then, for example, let's pass any numbers and calculate the sum. For example, we can print the sum of the numbers that we are going to pass. So print sum of numbers, the numbers we are going to pass. So like that. So let's call numbers, and we are going to pass in like 1, 3, 5, 2. So then we are going to print there. So you can print or return in any way you want. So you can say 11 calculated the sum of numbers. For example, maybe you can even pass in the strings. Let's print the args. See how they so that you can see how they are treated. So let's print them. You can see it's treated as a tuple. So you are going to learn about the data structures. So that's how a tuple is written. So you can pass in the names like Bill. You can pass any combination get like that. So as long as you know it's a tuple, you can be able to access the tuple elements and print them. So that's their arbitrary argument. So you can pass any number of arguments to the arbitrary function. So and that is it for the arbitrary arguments in Python. So the other type of argument in Python is it's the same one like this, but a little bit different. So it's called the keyword arguments. Represented as the two asterisks. So the keyword argument is represented with two asterisks. So I said previously on this, I said that the arbitrary argument it's represented by the most important is the asterisk, not the name. For this, you can just use any number, like you can say nums, like that, and it will still work the same. So let's rerun that for you to see, yeah, like that. So it doesn't mean you have to use the args, but you can basically decide on what to use. The most important thing is to understand you have to use the asterisk before the variable, before the parameter name that you're using on the what you are defining a function. So we go to the keyword. So this allows you to pass a variable number of keyword arguments to a function. Keyword, I already discussed about the keyword arguments. That means when you go to the keyword arguments now is that you are passing the keyword argument that we don't know the number of keywords argument. For example, here we knew that we are supposed to pass two keyword arguments, the age and name. Yeah. But now on this, you can pass any number. You're passing it can allow you to pass any number of keyword arguments to a function. For example, now let's define a function. We are going to call this function names. Then we are going to pass in the parameter. We're going to pass in the parameters as a keyword arguments. So like that, then you can print the keywords. Keyword arguments. So the values here are they use the key value syntax. It's like a dictionary. Dictionary is a data structure in Python. So it uses the key value pair syntax, that is. So for this we can pass. So on the core of the function, you can pass in the names. So you can pass the name 1 equals to this. You can pass name 2 equals to James. Name 3 equals to Jane. Name 4 equals to Lawrence. So let's print the names. So comment on this. So let's clear the font, print like that. You can see it's treated as a dictionary. Dictionary in Python uses the curly brackets like that. So I don't want to dive into that. You'll see how you can access the key value pairs in a data structures or in Python later in the tutorial, because we are going to cover about the dictionaries. So those are the 5 types of the arguments that you are going to deal with during the Python functions. So I hope you understood on how you can use each and every argument we discussed. The number 1 was the position, number 2 was the keyword, number 3 was the default, number 4 was the arbitrary, and number 5 was the keyword. And that's all for the Python arguments. I hope you understood them, so you can practice to understand really deep on we go about the Python arguments. That's all for that video. I hope you enjoyed it. You can leave the comment, tell me about how the video was. Do you really catch up on how was it interesting? So that's all for the Python arguments. That's all for the Python function arguments. See you in the next video. Thank you.